This is Time and Other Thieves, reflections and conversations on the nature of existence. I'm Sarah B., and in this episode I'm going to share parts of a conversation I recently had with psychotherapist, process group leader, and group therapy consultant Sara Schreiber. Sara, no H, lives in New Jersey. I first met her on Zoom in a meeting of the Masters of Group Therapy Club, which I've talked about before on this show. A few months back, I did an episode that featured two other members of that club, Sarah Taylor and Vanessa Caruso, who run groups together called Saying the Unsaid. But Sara Schreiber was actually the first person I met in that context, along with club leader Jacob Winkler. I'm pretty sure the first meeting I attended was just me, Sarah, and Jacob. We were supposed to be watching a recording of a process group that Jacob had facilitated, but instead Jacob kept focusing on an interpersonal issue that Sarah had mentioned. She was very considerate of me and didn't want to keep talking about herself if I'd come with the expectation that we'd be watching and discussing the demo group footage. Always primed to go into process mode, Jacob asked me something like, "If you preferred to watch the video over continuing this discussion about Sarah's dilemma, would you say it?" "Probably not," I said, "but this is my first time here." In truth, I had been eager to watch the demo video, but I already liked Sarah and didn't want to say anything that might make her dislike me. She was beautiful, dark hair, blue eyes, immaculate complexion, and she was articulate, and she smiled a lot and had a calm, gentle way about her and was clearly quite intelligent. And her interpersonal dilemma and the way Jacob questioned her about it was compelling enough to make me think afterwards, well, that wasn't what I was expecting, but I'll give it another shot. The club met on Zoom 3 times a week, and Jacob was only charging $50 a month. He would basically quintuple that fee come January. This was August. So I intended to get the most I could out of this ridiculously cheap learning experience before canceling my membership at the end of December. I never did cancel that membership. I now gladly pay $239 a month for this wonderful thing we call simply Club. For 50 minutes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I get to hang out with Jacob, Sarah, Vanessa, Dan, Leanna, and Richard, and talk about process groups, and psychotherapy, and dreams, and money, and creativity, and basically anything under the sun. And I know the conversation will more often than not be intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally stimulating, and intimate and connecting, and funny and touching and absurd and irritating, and deeply inspiring and encouraging. And I usually won't want it to end, and I'll feel like a better therapist, group leader, and human being for having done it. I love these people on my computer screen. I've never met any of them in person, but since joining the club in August of 2024, I've spent more time with them than I have with anyone else except my husband and my dogs. They are the most creative and intelligent people I know, and I feel unbelievably blessed to know them. Sadly, Sara Schreiber did cancel her club membership back in March, for reasons we'll discuss shortly. But in the roughly 8 months we spent together with Jacob and the others, and there were others who left too, I got to know her pretty well. Sarah was the only person from club who checked on me via email after Hurricane Helene ravaged western North Carolina. I was only able to check that email on my phone, standing on the edge of a field where I magically got 5G internet, as the Wi-Fi in my house was out for a solid week. Aside from learning that she was a thoughtful and considerate person who paid attention to natural disaster news, I also learned that Sarah was Orthodox Jewish, and that her hair, at that time always worn with part of it pulled back in a barrette and the rest hanging well past her shoulders, wasn't her hair at all, but a wig. Could have fooled me. Until she mentioned her wig, I had not known that Orthodox women, once married, keep their hair covered when in public, either with a hat or a headscarf or a wig. Over the course of many club meetings, Sarah mentioned various things about her religion that piqued my interest and deepened my respect for her. When we first signed on to the Zoom call for this episode's conversation, before I hit the record button, I told Sarah that I missed her in club. She said she missed me and the others too, but that she ultimately felt good about leaving because club had negatively impacted her work as a process group leader. Jacob's leadership style, she said, is quite different from hers, and being exposed to it so frequently was causing her to lose sight of her own style. I hit record and asked, "How would you describe your style, and how did you notice that being affected?"
I think my style is there's a big focus on understanding one's feelings first before anything else. And
Mhm.
in the club, or I think what we were learning was more around like the interpersonal connectedness that I was getting a lot of exhilaration from, but I was missing the pausing and reflecting on feelings. And I think that I was noticing that I was having too much fun
Mhm.
in my groups, that then it ended up being like possibly at the expense of my members without thinking about like, well, what are you here for? What do you need? What are you feeling in this moment? And so I think there was, yeah, I think the intensity that I was and I was thriving within the intensity myself, but then when it came down to me doing it, it wasn't in line really with the person that my group clients had signed on to do group with. And so that I think was like the biggest indicator for me that I wanted to kind of focus on like my just what I was learning in other places and see how I did with that.
Yeah. So have those other places been, or what are the.
Yeah. I'm in a lot. So I'm in weekly group therapy consultation with an individual consultant. And then I'm also in a training group once a week. And I'm in a peer consult group
Hmm.
once a week for group therapists. And I'm in a monthly child and adolescent peer consult group.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, that's all a lot, you
Yeah.
know, and then add on 3 times a week club. Like I just couldn't, it was just too much.
Your
So,
sponge was soaked through and dripping.
exactly. Yes.
And you
So
feel like since leaving, you've found more of your style and your voice again, and
I think so.
uh-huh. You can
And
notice.
I pull from what I learned from there, still,
Hmm.
but it's not all consuming.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that sometimes myself, the all-consuming.
Mm,
I mean, just group in general being all-consuming.
yeah,
So
it really
much,
is, right?
so much to think about. And I recently started co-leading for the first time, so that adds a whole new
Yeah. How's that been
level.
for you?
Yeah, it's great. It's very challenging. It's still so new. I've only done 4 sessions, but I'm just realizing that it just adds a whole other person to think about and a whole other dynamic to work
Whole
in,
other, whole
cultivate.
other dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like, I've explored this a lot of like, is it two parents? Is it two siblings? Is there competition? Is there love? Is there hatred? Like, there's just so much going on between you and the co-leader. And the level of process that's happening in the group is not necessarily happening. But yeah, there's like, what are the rules
Yeah,
for the process of the co-leadership?
right. We're figuring it out as we go along. Are you co-leading anything right now?
Right now I'm not.
Okay,
No. And my co-leader, so the training group I'm in, they're co-leaders and it's a man and a woman and I'm loving it. It's so cool. I've co-led a lot, but usually as a trainer. So I'm like giving my co-leader training and running group by having them co-lead with me. So
cool.
there's also like a weird power dynamic. I'm also usually their boss. So there's like a straight, I'm paying them and I'm supervising them. And so it's like very different, I think, than just co-leading with a colleague.
How,
Oh, I co-lead a consult group for early career group therapists, child
oh.
and adolescent group therapists. So, okay, so I am co-leading. There you go.
About a week before our Zoom conversation, I emailed Sarah some questions that we might explore. She was free to tell me if she didn't like any of the questions and free to suggest any that weren't included. And those questions were: what do you love/hate most about being a group leader? What do you love/hate most about being a group member? How does being a mother make you a better group leader and vice versa? What sorts of things do you do for self-care? How do you metabolize all of the unconscious material you're so regularly exposed to? How does your spirituality inform your approach to therapy work, both group and individual? Would you be willing to talk about your religious upbringing and what you love/hate most about Orthodox Judaism? How do you navigate political/religious issues when they come up in group? In her response email, Sara commented that the questions were interesting. So when we spoke, I asked her, in typical process group fashion, what the feeling behind that comment was.
Yeah, so I love having more personal conversations, and I was intrigued by the questions because they were so personal. And I think whenever I've been lately interviewed on podcasts, they've always been about business, the business side of group therapy. And this is so refreshing. Like, I
Hmm.
would so much rather not talk about that today. I mean, we can, but I loved your questions about that were just about my life and religion and spirituality. It was just like, what a breath of fresh air.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know that. I mean, I've only listened to one other podcast you were a guest on. It was very business focused, and that's not
Hmm.
what I do on this podcast. I try to bring some spiritual elements into each episode. So, and to me,
Yeah.
group is very spiritual.
Yeah. And I love how your the style of your podcast. So I'm
Hmm.
excited to hear how this comes out.
Well, what is there a question that you remember that really stands out or?
There was a question about being Orthodox Jewish.
Mhm.
I was wondering why you were asking about that. And then I had some thoughts that I would love to talk about as they relate to both the intersection of that and group therapy.
Awesome. Well, I'm just interested in all religions and spiritual paths and don't know a ton about Orthodox Judaism. So it would be for my edification and just getting to know you better.
Cool. So, something I think you had said, like, what do you love about being Orthodox or something? And the thing, hands down for me is celebrating Shabbat,
Mm.
which is, from Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown. So it's about 25 hours. Or Saturday, it's like after like an hour after sundown. So it's a full 25 hours of not using any, like turning off my phone. I completely power it down. I turn off my computer. We make all the food in advance, so we don't cook on the holiday itself. We cook on Friday afternoons. I'm usually busy cooking, getting ready for it, and we make like a holiday meal every
Mm.
weekend. So it's like good food, abundant food, and we celebrate with our family and with our friends. And so there's in my culture, there's this expectation or there's this cultural norm that you have there's 3 meals on the holiday. So it's Friday night dinner, Saturday lunch, and then Saturday like afternoon it's dinner again basically, but it's like a lighter dinner because lunch is so heavy.
Mm.
And there's this cultural norm of having those meals with family and friends. And it's a sit down dinner party, sit down lunch. And every week people invite it's not just friends, it's community members. It's people that you don't necessarily know very well, but maybe you want to get to know better. You invite their family over to your house for the meal.
Mm.
And when we have little kids, usually we're doing like just the lunch meal with friends, and usually the Friday night meal is just my husband and our kids. But I always think about when I'm deciding who should we invite for Shabbat lunch this week.
Mm.
I'm thinking about, well, who do I want to introduce? Like, who would I like to introduce to one another, or who would I like to get to know each other better, and who has kids a similar age, or who has something in common? And it's literally so similar to putting together a group.
Uh-huh.
And I was at a training that a Jewish person was giving this training on group therapy. And she said, and I say this a lot when I'm teaching about like group composition. I quote her and I changed it a little bit to say like dinner party. But what she said is think about your group members as people at your Shabbat dinner. And that really resonated with me. It's thinking about like who can I place together where we can sit at the table and have a rich, meaningful experience with one another. And that is totally my favorite part about my religion is being able to have this, you're unconnected. Nobody has their phones. Everyone's just present with each other. And the kids are playing, and the kids don't necessarily know each other. So we've got like we're at the dining room, all the adults are at the table, we're eating and talking and having, usually it's pretty like meaningful, rich conversation. And because also we don't have anywhere else to be. So we're just there enjoying. And the kids are playing in the other room. They're playing outside. They're getting to know each other because usually, oftentimes it's people you don't know very well. It's sometimes when we're feeling lazy, we just have our best friends over and then the kids all know each other and they're having fun too. But there is this element of like getting deeper and more connected to the community through Shabbat.
Mm, that sounds lovely. And you've been doing that your whole life.
Yeah,
So you've always had this consistent, I mean, a big piece that stands out to me is the no technology
yeah,
thing, which is huge
yeah.
and probably ties
It's
into another of my questions about self-care and like how you
yes.
metabolize all your peopling that you do.
Yeah, 100%. It's so nice. And and there's no TV, there's no so like Friday nights also, my husband and we've got a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 21-month-old. And we Friday nights, they go to sleep. So usually we start the meal with them, put them to sleep in the middle of the meal, and then we continue our meal. And usually we're eating, steak and a glass of wine and we just it's like our date night, we're sitting and we just talk and we don't have our phone. We're not watching a TV show. Like we're just talking and
Yeah.
connecting.
Wow.
And so that, it's like one of my favorite nights of the week, just being able to just be fully disconnected. And I'm not worried about, do I need to check my phone? And because it's crazy because any other night of the week, I'm like connected to my phone. I need to know what's happening on there. The second Shabbat ends, I'm like running to my phone, turning it on, seeing what I missed. But while I'm in it, I just don't even think about it. It doesn't cross my mind. I'm just present. And
Hmm.
because of that, and I always say, like, thank God for Shabbat. Like I just
Yeah.
am I need it. By the time Friday comes, I'm like so overstimulated by my screen. Like I need
Mhm.
to turn this off.
Right.
And it's nice that it's a part of my routine, part of my religion where I need to.
And you do get a lot of screen time because all your groups are virtual, right?
Yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of your individual sessions are as well.
yeah. I would say about like 95% of my work is virtual.
Yeah, that's exhausting. Yeah,
Yes.
but your brain has to do so much more like filling in of gaps and I don't know. I just know that it's exhausting. I don't know the science behind it.
Yeah. No, it's really exhausting. Absolutely. And I mean, I'm also on top of that, like parenting in person,
Mhm.
but
Right.
that's exhausting too.
Yeah.
So there's like a combination of the parenting and the work and just
Did you
nice
always
to have a break.
appreciate Shabbat, like even as a teenager?
Yeah, I got to sleep a lot. It
Uh-huh.
was like my catching up on sleep time because I couldn't call any of my friends. When I was a teenager, I would like, I had my own like home phone line, which was really exciting. And
Mhm.
I would before I got a cell phone, and then once I got a cell phone, that was my phone. But I would be on the phone with my friends like all the time. And I went to sleep way too late. And so Shabbat was like I could catch up on sleep. And then I would hang out with my friends who lived locally because we don't drive on Shabbat. So like you just walk over to people's houses, So my friends who lived in walking distance, we'd hang out in the afternoons.
Oh, that's amazing. The no driving piece.
So also it builds community that way because we all live walking distance to the synagogue that we've decided to go to. So there's like, I mean, I live in a very well-populated Jewish area in like Bergen County, New Jersey. It's a very, very saturated Jewish community. And so there's like three or four, there's actually four, like off the top of my head, synagogues in walking distance to me. But the one that we go to, just everyone who lives in the area there's just so many options of people. We specifically, when we were moving to this community, we picked a house that was where like the factor was like how far of a walk is it to the synagogue and to parks and to people who have kids our age so that we can really make sure that because during the week, who cares? We're driving, we're going to work, we're not necessarily seeing people. On
Mm.
Shabbat, that's when we're social. So we wanted to make sure that we would have the social ability
Yeah,
in walking distance.
that's so cool. You would not do well where I live. You have to drive very far to get anywhere.
That's probably why there isn't like a big Orthodox community there.
Right. And I can see how that has influenced or, has probably contributed to your interest in group. You've had a lot of groups in your life from the beginning
Yeah,
and
it
present, like
felt
not on their
so,
phones, like we're together now.
yeah, it felt so natural, I think, when I learned about that thought of like putting it together like you would a Shabbat meal. I'm like, oh, I could put together groups. Like I've been doing this my whole life.
Will you talk a little about group and how you got into it? And
Yeah. So I worked at a hospital as my first job ever out of grad school. And I loved it. It was a grant funded job and it was just a perfect job for me at the time. And right when I got that job, I got pregnant with my oldest and I was like so excited about, now I have a job and now I'm pregnant and I'm gonna have maternity leave and all that stuff, right? And about 2 years into that job, and it was supposed to be a 3-year grant. 2 years in, we got notice from the city that the grant got defunded. So they said that we had 6 months to find a new job, basically. However, that same month, I learned I was pregnant with my second child, and I was really hoping to get 2 maternity leaves out of this position. And I was like, shoot, I need to find a new job like right now because I don't want to start looking for a job when I'm 6 months pregnant. I want to find a new job now. So, anyways, I got to work trying to find a new job, and someone that was like one of my site supervisors was happened. She wasn't working clinically in my job, but she worked part-time at a group private practice near where I lived. And she was like, if you want, I can get you in to work there. And I'm like, sure, I'll check that out. Like, I hadn't really considered working at a private practice. I didn't know anything about that world. I was working clinically at a hospital doing like integrative behavioral health, and it was amazing. I was working alongside the pediatricians doing therapy in the pediatrician's office and the patients. It was in a very low SES area in the Bronx, and the patients got free psychotherapy, like unlimited free psychotherapy. It was amazing for everybody. And I ran some groups there just for free, like drop-in groups, and I did all sorts of stuff. It was really cool. So she tells me about the job and she's like, yeah, I run some groups there and I make $50 per person per group session. And I was like, wow, that sounds great. That's a good way to make money.
yeah.
And I need money because I'm about to have my second child and I'm, losing my job. So in my interview, I was like, yeah, I love running groups because I had run like 2.5 groups at, you know, my current job. And in my internships, like I ran some groups. I was like, yeah, groups are great. I love groups. Meanwhile, like never really learned anything about groups, didn't know so much about them at all. My group class like just skipped over groups and just talked about family therapy in grad school. It was just the
Huh.
teacher just conveniently left it out. I don't know. So I interviewed and then I got the job and then I got told what my title was at this job and it was director of group therapy. And I was like, what? I think I like was a little too enthusiastic, but I accepted it. And they were like, yeah, you could be full time. That's totally great. And so as I was starting, they were like, oh, do you want to start going to some group therapy like trainings? We'll sponsor it. I'm like, sure. And I went to some trainings and they told me about AGPA.
AGPA stands for the American Group Psychotherapy Association. It's the only organization, far as I know, through which one can become a certified group psychotherapist, which Sarah is. And every year they have a huge meeting, what other organizations would call a conference, that involves what are called institutes. That's a series of process groups, as well as workshops and lectures and keynote speeches. I've never been to an AGPA meeting because I hate to travel and because they're quite expensive, and I'm quite frankly overwhelmed by how to even register for the thing. I have, however, attended 4 weekend-long intensive trainings through CGS, or the Center for Group Studies, in New York City. I get around my travel aversion by opting to attend online, although I do want to suck it up at least once in the near future and go in person.
And then I went to the AGPA conference. and I did like the 2-day institute, which is 2 days of group therapy. And I was like totally, I was sold. I'm like, wow, groups are crazy. And I love it. And so,
Is there
and
a
so
certain like
essentially,
memory or experience from your first AGPA that stands out?
yeah. I was 8 months pregnant by the time I went to that first AGPA.
Wow.
So this is fast forward, right, in my pregnancy. It was also March of 2020 in New York City. And so we're like at literally the institute was a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And Tuesday afternoon is when COVID like entered New York. So we're all like, oh my God, like at the conference, or maybe it was Wednesday. We were all, yeah, I drove in the next day because I'm like, I can't take public transportation now, but like still going to be at this conference with thousands of people. But something that stood out to me was I was in the 0 to 4 year experience group, which was appropriate for my age and level of experience. But because I'm an Orthodox Jew, I got married younger. I got married at age 21, got to work having babies pretty young. So I had my first when I was like 24, and my second, I was turning 26. Or I guess I was 26 when I had my second. So I'm with other people who are around my age, but they weren't married, they didn't have kids. So there was a lot of reaction to my pregnancy
Oh,
that people talked about to me in the institute. But what came out was things like it was triggering because one of them had had an abortion when she was in college, and other people, it was like, oh, my mom was a super young mom and we struggled, or, and I was able to hear like why it was triggering and what people's feelings were. And I felt like it was odd, but it was actually really interesting for people to be so honest to
right.
me.
Yeah. It's better
Yeah.
than just sitting there feeling their triggered vibes, right? At least they're taking responsibility for it and
Yeah.
uh,
And they were also, some of them were like, are you really happy? Like, blink twice if you're actually okay. Because I'm this like young pregnant woman, you know? And then once I like was talking a little more about my life and my family, my culture, my family, people were like, okay, you seem like you're actually like really settled in your decision of your life.
Can you say a little more about the marrying young being part of Orthodox Judaism? I don't know
Oh
anything.
yeah. I wonder if it's similar to like Christianity, where I mean, I don't know, but we don't have sex before marriage. We also like we don't even touch, we're not even supposed to touch at all. So like my husband and I had our first kiss at our wedding.
That little sound was me saying wow, which was preceded by a drop jawed, wide eyed facial expression.
Yeah. So people have different levels of religiosity, or not even religiosity, but of what they do, boundaries around that. I think we were like pretty young. We were pretty religious, like more religious probably than we are now. And we came into our dating like pretty close to having like after being in yeshiva and seminary for like a year post high school where we were learning only Torah for the whole year.
Is that
So we
common?
like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very common thing. People go to Israel, they learn, and we got college credits for it. So like it was like our first year of college, but it was just Judaic studies. We didn't know each other. We both came out of that, went to Yeshiva University, and that's where we met in undergrad at orientation. But we were like coming in with like a pretty religious mindset, I think, when we started dating. So we were pretty observant. So I think, people get married young mostly because there's that physical part of the relationship can't happen until you get married.
Right. I can almost feel the longing and desire that must have been building up.
Yeah, so we also have pretty short engagements and dating,
Uh-huh.
like in general. That's my understanding of why we do that young. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
the real reason, but for me that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So and then we were still students and we were in undergrad. We got married going into our senior year of college. We got access to on-campus housing, so our apartment was very cheap. And our parents like kind of contributed a little bit towards our rent. And then we both worked like between the two of us, we worked like three part-time jobs to cover all of our other expenses. And it was just fun.
Well, that kind of is similar to group two in that, people have attraction for each other and they can't act on it. You can talk about it, but not going to go into action.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah. And we were friends first, so we didn't talk about anything like that until we started dating. And then, yeah, you could talk about it, but you can't act on it.
Wow. What
I
do you
guess I have a lot of
see?
experience with proof. There you go.
What do you see as the benefits of that arrangement?
Um, I mean, there's like, you don't have anyone to compare anything to, which I think could be helpful. And just so that's like, I guess once you're already, married, but in the dating process, it makes it a really emotionally charged connection. You're not getting lost in like the physical, in the weeds of it.
I've been thinking about this since Sarah and I spoke, and I've actually tapped into a little bit of jealousy within myself. Part of me, just part of me now, wishes I'd been raised in a culture that expected me to remain a virgin until I was married. Instead, I had sex for the first time when I was 16, and not because I desperately wanted it or was deeply in love with my boyfriend at the time. My main reason for doing it was that I wanted to get it over with. Sex felt like this big, scary, looming thing. More and more of my friends were starting to do it, and I'd be damned if I was going to be the only virgin in my peer group. I figured the longer I put it off, the more intimidating it would become. It was a source of anxiety for me, and I only saw one solution. Just do the damn thing. So I made it happen. And of course, my boyfriend was happy to oblige. Or so I assume. But now I wish my first time had been different. I think there would have been something paradoxically liberating about knowing that sex wasn't an option before marriage, or at least before graduating high school. And if marriage or graduation hadn't been a prerequisite, I at least wish someone had said what Dave Smith says in the very first episode of his podcast, Dave Smith Dharma, which is titled Sex. He says, and I paraphrase, "You could go your entire life without having sex and be totally fine. It's not something you have to do. It's a choice." My 16-year-old self did not see it that way. Sex was a given, a requirement. I had to do it at some point, so I may as well go ahead and do it. Of course, I also agree with the Samantha character in Sex and the City who says you should test drive a car before buying it, and you should have sex with a man before marrying it. Again, a paraphrase. In our conversation, Sara Schreiber acknowledged the prudence in this approach.
I mean, look, like some people it doesn't work out, right? Like some people get married and they start having sex and they're like, wow, we're so sexually incompatible. And so I think like you take a risk when you're doing it that way. But, I've been married for almost 11 years now. So,
Pretty good.
yeah, pretty good. But definitely, I think there's like, and the younger you are, I think the more like usually people are more just open to doing it the way that you've been taught to do it your whole life
Mm-hmm.
versus like as you get older and you start experiencing the world more, I think people may tend to feel a little jaded from the whole dating experience.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever resent that you couldn't do things with boys like as a teenager? Was that
Um,
frustrating or?
I don't know if it was frustrating. I think it was more like it was just our life. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting. People talk a lot about representation on TV, and I see this a lot with like disabled people or people of color or, like where it's like the TV shows that were around when we were middle schoolers, high schoolers, it represented a very specific type of person. And I felt that a lot. Like I would watch TV and I'm like, this is a different reality. Like this is so different from my life. I can't even imagine this being real. And so it felt like I mean, I only wear skirts. Like I don't wear pants. So there's like the way that they dress, the way that they act, the way that they date, like all of it is so different. And so it was like watching TV and being like, that's what they do on TV.
Yeah.
And then we do something different, you know? And everyone I knew, I went to Jewish day schools, like everyone I knew in my community was doing the same. Like that's how we were. But then at the same time, like not everyone is following that, you know? like
Mhm.
I was, but not, there were plenty of people in my class, whatever, that were not
Yeah,
doing the same thing I was doing.
right. Not as religious.
Yeah, I guess, or not as strict
Yeah.
in dating. It's funny, I haven't talked about this in so long. Like, I don't, I'm like trying to even, and I feel like I'm like, I don't, I speak, I'm just speaking for myself here. Like, I can't speak for anyone
Yeah, of
else in terms of, I'm sure other people would have very different opinions about what I'm talking about.
course. So it makes the world go round.
Yeah.
How's it feeling to talk about it?
I'm worried about people hearing it and being like, oh, Sarah's so wrong. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
What people?
My old high school rabbi is going to be listening in on this.
What wouldn't he like that you've said?
I'm kidding. I think he'd love it.
Man, it must have been pretty nerve-wracking to have a wedding and not even have kissed your groom.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah,
normal.
right.
Yeah, it's so there's like so many things. We recently, this is about Shabbat, but we recently had like a very close friend of mine from that first job actually that I had mentioned. She was a pediatrician there, and she came for Shabbat dinner. And my son, my 7-year-old, was explaining everything to her in like layman's terms. And it's
Mhm.
so cute seeing him explain all the things and translating some of the stuff into English. And we have so many things that we do that are just normal,
Yeah.
in quotes, you know?
Mhm.
Like it's just a normal part of our life. And I don't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And then when I have someone like you or like her, in it, watching us do all of the things we do, I'm like, oh my God, like you must look so fill in the blank, whatever that is, different, or, there's just so many layers to it. So I think going to an Orthodox Jewish wedding is such a cool experience if you've never been to one. For someone who's been to like, probably 30 plus, like yeah, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Like it's just like another wedding, but it's such a cool, there's so many traditions, there's so many stuff. There's this moment in Ashkenazi Orthodox wedding where it's called a bedekin, and it's where the bride sits in a chair and she's flanked by her mother and her mother-in-law, and the groom is in a different room and they haven't seen each other for a whole week and
Hmm.
or spoken to each other the whole week before the wedding. There's no contact. And the groom has been in this other room with his friends and his dad and father-in-law, and they've been having their own little like thing that they're doing in there. And usually it's like they're signing the document, like the ketubah, which is the marriage certificate. So there's like some of the legal pieces in there, and then also they're eating food, they're singing, they're just, connecting with each other. And then everyone, the whole room of men, dance the groom out to the bride. And this is the first time that they're seeing each other in a whole week, and they're about to get married. And then he comes, and that's when he puts the veil over her head.
Hmm.
And then right after that is the chuppah, which is the, I don't know what is that called? Just the ceremony where you stand under what's it called in English?
Altar?
Yeah, I guess it's like the Jewish version of the altar. Yeah, standing at the altar, standing under the chuppah. So the chuppah is
Yeah.
like, and it's usually like a prayer shawl is on top of it. And so, and then they get married. But that moment, everyone watching that, like they know they haven't spoken in a week. So it's like a very emotionally charged moment for everybody. I know that I was crying so hard at mine. It was so emotional, and
Yeah.
and then at other people's too. Like I'm always just crying watching it because it's such a beautiful moment
Hmm.
of connection.
Hmm. Yeah. Makes me really want to attend one. I don't know if I'll ever get that chance though.
Yeah, I hope you do. It's very cool.
I asked Sarah to provide some examples of more day to day rituals that feel normal to her but might seem strange to an outsider. I guessed that a lot of them had to do with food.
Oh yeah. I mean, we make a prayer before we eat food.
Hmm.
We have various prayers for various types of food. So
Hmm.
there's like grains is one prayer, like liquid, and fruits has one, vegetables has one, and then like candy, like things that are not fruit or vegetables or like grains have a third. So we have like all these different prayers that we say before. And then we have like prayers for after we eat.
Yeah.
After we go to the bathroom, we say a prayer.
Okay.
It's a
What
good one. We're thanking God for like letting our body do what it's supposed to do.
can you
I
say it?
love that one. It's long.
Okay. And you say it out loud every time you use the bathroom or just to
I like
yourself?
whisper it to myself. Yeah, but I could say it. You want to hear it?
I do.
Okay. It's in Hebrew.
Oh, okay. Will you be
You know
able
what?
to?
How about let me pull up the English translation?
Okay. Well, I would love to
Um,
hear the Hebrew too, or at least part of it. I love that.
yeah. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yatzar es ha'adam b'chachma uvaravo nekavim nekavim chalulim chalulim galoi v'yadua lifnei chividacha she'im yipaseach echad mehem o yisasem echad mehem אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך אפילו שעה אחת baruch atah Adonai rofei chol basar u'mafli la'asot. So it's basically you're thanking God for forming the human body and making it have openings and closings, and basically saying that if any of these things went wrong, we wouldn't be able to survive and we wouldn't be able to stand before you. And so basically, so thank you for making my body work the way that it's supposed to work.
Wow.
And I find that to be actually one of the most meaningful prayers,
Right.
especially like working. I worked at a camp one summer for children with chronic illness,
Mhm.
and I when my camper like literally didn't have a colon. Her body did not function the way that my body does.
Mhm.
It makes it really meaningful to think
Yeah.
about it that way.
Yeah. Gratitude for everything.
Yeah, we have a prayer when we hear thunder and lightning, when we see the ocean.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a lot. So I
no.
think we're like constantly just chatting with God
Hmm.
about various things in our day.
I love that. What if a meal has vegetables and grains? You do both those prayers?
Yeah, and there's an order of what you're supposed to do first.
Of
The
course.
grains come first. But if there's bread, then you just make the prayer on bread, and then that you don't need to make any other prayers. The bread is like the top,
Nice.
covers everything. And
So,
then you do like the biggest post prayer if there was bread. So it's like a much longer uh grace after meals is the
mm,
English translation.
mm.
How is it hearing about all this stuff?
I love it. It making me, I feel happy. I just think it's lovely.
Yeah,
I love
there's
ritual and prayer and talking to God and how it's done in
yeah.
different ways in different cultures and
What religion do you feel most aligned with? Or do you like actually practice?
Buddhism.
Hmm.
Yeah, which some would argue isn't a religion, but I think it is. It has all the trappings. There's not,
Yeah.
there's not a theism involved. There's no God we're praying to, but I have my own definition of God. So that's the one that I have the most discipline around, and I go to a temple every Sunday, and
Oh, cool.
I also am very drawn to Taoism and just like things being exactly how they're supposed to be and
Hmm.
trusting, the 10,000 things or God or the way or
Yeah.
nature.
It gives me a lot of um I feel calmer like being connected to God. And it's funny because as a therapist, like I really don't. It doesn't come up so much in my clinical work in the content, right? Like my clients are not necessarily religious. They're not talking about God. I go with, if they are religious, then we talk about that. If they're not, we're not talking about that. But my own personal beliefs and practice help me in my work tremendously, just in terms of being, I can rely on God that He's looking out for me while I'm working and
Mhm.
while I'm just in my everyday life.
You're
And
doing,
that when things are stressful, being able to, especially things with work or even within my groups, like being able to say, like, God, help me out here. This is a hard one.
yeah. And
He might say no.
you're
I
doing
want it
all
to be
these
hard for you. What do you say?
you're just doing all these things on such a regular basis to stay in connection with God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do like as much as I used to or as much as a lot of other people do, but I think yeah, like the spirituality piece of it, like being in conversation is something that I definitely do
Mhm.
regularly.
Well, I know some other questions getting back to group, and this might still tie in spiritual stuff, but what you love or hate most about being a group member and being a group leader, anything?
Yeah, I I'm bad at vulnerability, and so I think I don't know if I hate that as much as I just struggle with it as a group member.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really hard for me.
Yeah,
I love being like a leader, I guess, in just in general in my life. And that feels actually way less vulnerable
right,
than being like in the muck.
right.
And I love it too. It's both. I love trying to work at it, and I also hate needing to do it. And being a group leader, it's almost the opposite, actually. I love running groups. I love being able to help people with that connection to one another and to themselves and to learn more about themselves. And it's like mind blowing. And I love that I get to help people get to that. And I hate sometimes that I can't be in it with them.
I agree with both of those. I feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a different kind of vulnerability to being a leader because people are looking to you to know what to do, right? And you could get it wrong.
Yeah.
You could be
Yeah.
competent. So there's that level of vulnerability, but
Yeah. I'm okay with that part though.
yeah.
Because it's like how it's supposed to go, you know? Like if someone's mad at me, I'm like, great, you're supposed to be mad at me. That's how group goes, right? Like,
Yeah.
good job, me, for making someone mad at me versus in an actual group, like when I'm a member and someone's mad at me, I'm like, what are the rules for this? I feel defensive right now, you know? Like, don't get
Right.
mad at me.
Yeah, it's amazing how our roles, we hold to them. It's all kind of made up and, thoughts, but they really do impact how we receive things and respond.
Yeah.
And as far as wishing you could be in it with them, like, I mean, what comes to mind for me is, oh, if I were a member, I would say this to that person right now, but that would not be
Yeah.
appropriate for me to say as a leader. Is that what you're thinking, or?
Yeah, for sure. There's part of that feeling like I'm having, like, if I'm having countertransference towards one of the members, if I was a member too, I would have the same feelings and I'd be able to verbalize that. As the
Mhm.
leader, I'm like, well, I can't. I need to help. I need to do something different.
Yeah,
Or I have to worry about you versus I'm worrying about myself.
right.
And which is safer in a lot of ways, actually. But sometimes there's this like heavy relating that I have where I'm like, wow, I really relate to what this person's saying. I want to be their friend. Like, I feel like I'd be more effective. And sometimes I feel this way in one-on-one therapy. Like, I feel like I'd be more effective if I was just your friend and I could
Yeah,
just tell you what to do,
right.
or I could tell you about my experience and it would help you versus holding the frame of being the group leader or the therapist. It's such a different role.
Yeah, so many dilemmas.
Yeah. And I work with a lot of teens. And so, like, the teen therapist, a lot of it is like straddling that line of like, knowing that I'm not only their therapist, I'm also like an adult, I could be a very positive adult person in their life. And that's a big power to have. And how do I like have that in a way with them that's it's not taking advantage of the power? So yeah, it's very interesting, just like recognizing all of that. And teens need like kind of a different kind of therapist
Yeah,
sometimes, like a little more fun, a little more self-disclosure.
yeah.
So it's very
Complex.
interesting to kind of like dip in and out of that. And then also working with adults. And
And then you have three children of your own. And one of my questions was maybe how that influences your group leadership, if it does, and vice versa.
yeah, I think my group training has helped me be a parent to a group of kids. I find myself asking them things that I would ask in a group.
Mm.
I think I mentioned this one time in the club. Like,
Yeah.
my daughter was crying, or no, my son was crying, and my baby, I turned to her and I said, "Why do you think Judah's crying?"
Love
And
it.
she couldn't answer because she doesn't talk. And so he had to tell me why. But I like did it in this like other way,
Yeah.
which I thought was so creative of me because it got him to tell me.
Yeah.
Um, or sometimes there's like a conflict happening. I'm able to, I don't know, I use some group stuff with them to kind of better understand what's happening. So I find that that the group work, it really, and I think about it a lot. I love the idea. I'm so fascinated by people's original groups, right? Like their family of origin. And in my intakes for a group, I ask a lot about family of origin. I really want to understand, like, how did you show up in there? What was your role? What member did you play? How are you going to show up in our group? How are we going to see that, the overlap of that? And that is so much on my mind in my parenting.
Mm.
Probably too much, honestly. Like people say that it's hard to be raised by a therapist because like there's so much thinking about like how could I not mess you up, you know?
Right. Right.
But I think about it a lot, and I think having a family with little kids, when I'm in my groups and I see how people act in a group, it's easier for me to picture what their life looked like or how they looked when they were a kid because I have those touch points of like, I know what the chaos looks like. I'm living in it right now.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to like kind of tap into that more vividly.
Well, I've really enjoyed this. Is there anything else you want to add or ask or want people to know about you?
You can follow me on Instagram, Groups in Private Practice. And my website is I have collaborativeminds.net is my private practice, and groupsinprivatepractice.com is my consulting practice. So if you want help starting groups in your practice or getting some clinical training, find me over there. And if you want to refer anyone to groups in New Jersey or New York, then you can find me on the collaborativeminds.net.
How's your therapist only group going?
It's so good. We just had our third session today. Yeah,
I
it's
have my
been,
fourth of the therapist only group. I started the one I'm co-leading. That was yesterday. Yeah.
how was it?
It's great. It's a great group. They're
That's
so
awesome. Are
so
they in person?
yeah.
Ah, that's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is virtual, so it's different, but no, it's a good group of people, really motivated, and it seems like they're gaining a lot from it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Threw that one together pretty quickly, or you got
I
members
guess
quickly.
it's the Instagram, but I love that we're doing this kind of like at the same time.
Yeah.
Is yours time limited or it's ongoing?
Yeah. Ongoing.
Ongoing, yeah, that's nice. I was
You're doing
nervous. I
what?
didn't 12 weeks, yeah. I didn't want to like jump in with an ongoing group. I wanted to dip my toes in and then
Yeah.
take it from there.
I hope they all want to continue for years.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been a different kind of
Uh-huh.
interview.
I hope you've enjoyed listening to my conversation with Sara Schreiber. Her Instagram, again, is Groups in Private Practice with underscores between each word. I want to thank her again for coming on the show. I hope to see her at an AGPA annual meeting soon, maybe even next year. And I hope that she'll come back to the Masters of Group Therapy Club someday. I'm Sarah B., and this is Time and Other Thieves. I hope to record another episode in the next month or so, probably on the book Modern Man in Search of a Soul by Carl Jung, which I've been reading at the suggestion of Jacob Winkler and really, truly enjoying every morning over breakfast. And hey, there are still a couple seats left in my Time and Other Thieves group. I've decided to just do the Wednesday meeting time, so that group is slated to start on July 30th. It'll meet on the last Wednesday of each month from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. You can learn more about it by listening to the episode that I published right before this one, and or by emailing me at sarahbsimpson@protonmail.com. And that is Sarah with an H.